Hello, everyone. I'm Armstrong Williams, and thank you for joining us for this Tuesday, March 23rd video blog. You know, earlier this week, I was a guest on MSNBC, and the topic of discussion centered around the National Tea Party and whether the Tea Party is becoming an eyesore and a nightmare for the Republican Party. I have never associated the Tea Party with the GOP. I actually assumed that the Tea Party was a mixture of especially independents, Republicans, and Democrats, and people who really don't identify with any party, who have become disenchanted and feel polarized by the president's policies. If you recall, when the president was campaigning during last year's election, it was these very same people that were termed independents that abandoned the Republican Party and embraced this president. And so when it doesn't work for the administration and the Democratic controlled Congress, and it seems as though they've lost races in New Jersey and Virginia and now in Massachusetts, they want to label these people as in the pocket of the Republican Party. I just don't think you can play out that scenario with any kind of credibility. However, the point of my video blog today is what happened over the weekend when Tea Party participants were protesting at the U.S. Capitol against the passage of the healthcare legislation. And Congressman Cleavers and Congressman John Lewis were stunned when a few disgruntled protesters yelled the N word at them. Actually, I was horrified and shocked to think that in 2010, that kind of ignorance, bigotry, and insanity still exists among us. And what's sad about that kind of racist language is that the whole movement is castigated and maligned and marginalized as a result of the few. I would never associate the sincerity and the principles and the direction of the Tea Party with those remarks. However, I do believe that it's critical that the executive director of the Tea Party and the Republican Party and the Republican National Committee come out immediately and condemn such remarks, which has no place in a civil and a forward-thinking society. All of us know from human slavery to de jure segregation to the civil rights movement that slavery and its dirty cousins of racism has been the sin and the stain of this country. And nobody wants to go back to those days. But let's also remind ourselves that there are those that will use this sad occasion to further their agenda and to malign the Republican Party and the Tea Party, because the Tea Party has become such a force in the United States. So I would say many of them that are now condemning the Tea Party, and not just those individuals that made the remarks, are just as guilty uh, for their balkanizing of America. And we do need to lower our voices. But look, there's nothing but condemnation for those protesters, and there's just no place for it in our country. But the Tea Party, I have tremendous respect for. I understand their principles. And I think, like most of us, they could care less about the race of the president. The fact is, they voted for him, which shows you how far we've come as Americans, that we're truly that shining city on the hill. But let us not be fooled as to why people are angry and upset and disenchanted with our president. It's because of his policies that many people see as socialist and communist in nature. And I don't think that's a far fetch. I think the president has abandoned the principles of this country, like many Americans. But still, it is my prayer that he succeeds. I don't want the president to fail. I do think that our colleague and friend Rush Limbaugh does a disservice with much of the divisive rhetoric that he's using today, saying that He's basing this on race. He's trying to divide the country. The president could care less about race. He did not get in the White House based on the hue of his skin. That's not what his agenda is about. His agenda is about socialism. He does not understand who we are as Americans. So let's lower our voices. And when you see that kind of ignorance and that kind of hatefulness around you, where people use those slurs, whether it's the N word, what they use with Congressman Barty Frank, what was happened with Stupak, where the congressman did apologize, we must condemn it immediately because there's no place for that in our public debate. I'm Armstrong Williams, and thank you.